They were trying to say that I was working on, because I was in grad school.
What did you do with the kid all day? That's it.
I worked on feeding. That's the honest to God truth. I worked on feeding. I should just call the mom and
The
tell her
question
that
was, why did you do it? Because the mom called you and you lied to the mother about the child giving the teacher a flower. You called the school and told them that the child was sick and pretended that the mom was right there when you were making the call.
because I was
You lied to
scared.
the police about taking the car to the car wash. The school, this is a 14-page arrest warrant on this case. And the school has a U-shaped drop-off. And your car was never seen in the drop-off that morning.
We are about to watch a Connecticut pardon hearing for a woman who is tasked with taking a special needs kid to school, and then she was meant to stay in the school with this special needs child, a 4-year-old. But she never did that. She took the 4-year-old back home and then fabricated an entire day, texting mom saying what a great day her child is having. Now, here's the crazy thing. She is here today, 7 years after the incident, 3 years after leaving her probationary period, asking for a pardon. Why? Because she wants her job back. She wants to work with children again. So it's up to the pardon board to protect its constituency, to protect the community, to protect future children, to say one thing. Maybe you should look in a different line of work. Will they do that? Let's find out.
If you can please state your name for the record.
Tasha Flockhart.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Flockhart, may we ask you some questions?
I had something I wanted to say if I could, or if you
Yes,
prefer
please
just
do.
ask. Okay. I really appreciate you taking the time to hear me today. My name is Tasha Flockhart, and I'm here to respectfully ask for pardon. I take full responsibility for the decisions that led to my convictions in 2019, which resulted in 2 misdemeanors, custodial interference in the second degree, and making a false statement in the second degree. I fully understand the seriousness of these offenses, and I carry the weight of them every day. For the past 7 years, I've been committed to improving myself so that I make wiser decisions in the future. I've been able to do this with the help of family, friends, church, and therapy. The company I work for has given me the opportunity to participate in volunteer work. One experience in particular, helping at a back-to-school program, moved me deeply and revitalized my passion for working with children. That moment inspired me to start the process of going back to school for my LPC and also going back for my pardon. I'm requesting this pardon because I regret the choices I made, and I know what I did was wrong. I wish I had done so many things differently, and if I were faced with the same situation today, I would have called the parents to let them know their child had had an accident in the car, and I would have taken responsibility for having a clean set of clothing in the car. I would have responded very differently. And I'm truly sorry to everyone involved, especially the parents, because no parent should ever have to go any amount of time not knowing where their child is. I let a lot of people down, and I wish I could take it all back, but I can't. All I can do is make sure I've learned from my mistakes and continue to seek therapy, guidance from church and people around me, and to push to be better than I was the day before. Before all this happened, I'd always been very cautious about making the right decisions, and I'd always taken the time to decide what to do to avoid making wrong decisions but from this, I learned about myself how to respond under pressure. I have learned even when stressed, scared, or embarrassed, I need to take the time to think about my actions and how they affect others. My hope is to get the chance to get back to contributing to society in ways I know I'm capable. Moving forward, I am committed to a life of service, honesty, and continued growth. I understand this board does not take these decisions lightly, and I do not take this opportunity for granted. I'm truly grateful for the chance to be heard, and I thank you sincerely for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Pohl, any questions?
Madam Chair, that was laid out for me rather well. Ms. Flockhart is doing very well with employment. It's obvious that she's remorseful for what happened in this case and that she characterizes this offense appropriately. As such, I don't have any questions and I don't have an objection to this pardon.
Ms. Berry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Ms. Flockhart, and all of that, you still didn't say what you were doing with the kid all day.
So just say that part.
Yeah, I want to know what were you doing with her all day that you could not take her to school, call the school to tell the school she's sick and she's not coming. Then when they asked you if the daughter went to school, you said, yes, she did. Like it's just so bizarre.
Yes. So normally the nanny would take the child to school.
I know all about that. I just want to
okay.
know, what did you do with this child while
What? I
you
did
had
take
her?
I took her to the school, but she had an accident in the car. I didn't have a change of clothing, which I was supposed to have in my car at all times. So I took her back to my house. And it wasn't all day, so I don't know where that came from.
All day is from the time that you were supposed to drop her off at school until the end of the day when the mother called you and said
No.
she had your paycheck. It was so when whoever went to go pick the kid up from school said that the child wasn't there.
Yes, yes. So
And that was all day. You had her from, I wrote down the times. From 8:11 in the morning until 1:56.
I don't know where the time came from because what happened was the nanny texted me in the morning. This was before 12, so I don't know where the 1:15 comes from. Maybe when I dropped her off to the mom, but
not 1:15. Not you're Miss Blocker. I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. What did you do with the kid all day?
So I took her back to my house to have her changed, and then I worked. They were trying to say that I was working on because I was in grad school.
What did you do with the kid all day? That's it.
I worked on feeding. That's the honest to God truth. I worked on feeding.
And so I thought I read in your application that you said, I should have said I was exhausted. I was a full-time student. Did you not sleep? Like what? I just don't understand.
You mean during that time or?
Yes, during that time.
No, I did not sleep. I did not study. I did not do anything for me. I shouldn't have been there. I should have taken her back to school. I should have called the mom. I should have done so many things differently. But I 100% was working with the child on feeding. Not on the level that I would have if I was at the school or if I was at the family's house.
Okay, so let's just say this. So once you got to your house and she had the accident, you changed her clothes. Why didn't you bring her back home then? Why didn't you go back to the house and work on the feedings? Why did you take your car, it says, even, to get cleaned out in the car seat and all this stuff? And why such an elaborate excuse? I just feel that it was all for nothing. And I understood that the parents may have been a little bit aggressive or not, it's their kid though. I would have behaved the same way. My kid is missing. Where's my kid? Mm-hmm. So I'm just not understanding why. I don't understand. That's the long and short of it. What is this conviction in your application from Iowa? You wrote in your application that you were convicted in Iowa and Nebraska.
I had a speeding ticket, and I had 2 speeding tickets. And in Connecticut, in New York, if you take it to the court and plead innocent, then usually what you can do is pay a fine for a charity of some sort. So that's what I thought, but it's very different there. So then what made it worse was I missed my court date. So then it became a warrant. So that day that I was supposed to be in court, all of a sudden I was like, I better call and check in. And then they told me they had a warrant for arrest. So then I turned myself in. That's what that was.
So were you trying to find a new place to live? What was the purpose of your being in different states?
That's where my family is.
Oh, okay. So who's in Iowa?
Well, actually,
Your family?
my family is in Iowa and Nebraska, and they're right there.
Okay. Okay. And so are you in Arizona by yourself now, or Arkansas?
Arkansas. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
by myself in Arkansas.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also read, sorry, in your submission that you're bad at your job, which is why you want to go back to doing something that you enjoy doing. And honestly, while I can appreciate that, I think that every concerned parent who wants someone to work with their child, they really do want to trust that that person has their child's best interest at heart. And to go a millisecond without knowing where my kid is, I would absolutely go back crap crazy. So I just wanted to put that out there. And this, you know, even if, regardless of what happens here today, even if you are granted a pardon, there are no guarantees that people aren't going to ask about this. You know what I mean? So thank you for
I know.
answering my questions.
Okay, so Ms. Flockhart, my colleague wanted to know what? I want to know why.
Why I did what I did?
Yeah.
Well, I was working like 60 hours a week, so I was exhausted. I was in grad school. It's actually the last week of my finals. I mean, if I could do so many things differently, I would have set myself up better for success. But even if I didn't do any of that and I got to that moment, I should have just called the mom. I should just
Right.
called the mom
The
and told her
question
that.
was, why did you do it? Because the mom called you and you lied to the mother about the child giving the teacher a flower. You called the school and told them that the child was sick and pretended that the mom was right there when you were making the call.
Because I was
You lied to
scared.
the police about taking the car to the car wash. The school, this is a 14-page arrest warrant on this case. And the school has a U-shaped drop-off, and your car was never seen in the drop-off that morning. So there's all this questionable stuff where you were caught in your lies and you just dug in deeper and deeper with more lies. And, you know, that goes to character for me. Like, and trying to understand if you're exhausted, wouldn't the easy thing to do change the child's clothes and take her to school?
But no, that's I think why I didn't think more. But that's not why I did what I did. What I did honestly was because I messed up.
But I'm trying to understand, why did you mess up?
I should have had a change of clothing in the car. That was going to be a problem. So I should have just not cared about any of that and just called the mom. That's what I should have done. But the reason that I chose to take her to my house was because I knew I had a change of clothing so I could change her there. Then I was just basically
Okay, I
scared.
read about you
and
being
decision.
afraid that the mother would be upset that the child had an accident. And then I read that you told the police that the mom didn't want you to change the child around others.
Mhm.
And then you seemed to find a change of clothes in your trunk at one point.
No,
So-
that was no. That was at home. That's why I took her to my house, because I had a change of clothing at my house. I'm supposed to have a change of clothing in my car.
I read it,
At all times,
all of that.
yes.
I guess,
Yes.
so are you incapable of admitting when you're wrong? I mean, why would you compound the bad situation with more and more lies to the school, to the police, to the parents? Like, why?
But in the end, I told them everything that happened. So I did. I mean, the
You
only
don't
thing
get
I
absolved because you came clean in the end. I'm trying to understand, in the middle of it, you couldn't help yourself. You just kept making the situation worse with more and more lies to more and more people.
how did I do that though? That's why I don't understand, because
The mother
only time-
called and asked about the child giving the teacher a flower, and you lied to the mother about the teacher's reaction to the flower. You called the school and lied to them and told them the child was sick. You never notified the parents that you were keeping the child at your house. And then we read about the child watching videos while she was at your house. So, and then the police ask you, and they went to the car wash and they went through hours of video footage. You never took the car to the car wash. So,
Okay.
you know, this is what I'm trying to understand is your character. And is it just deeply flawed? Like, why would you, responsible for someone else's child, make such bad decisions and then not interrupt yourself to say, I got to stop. I got to get this kid to school. I got to call the parent, tell them where she is, any of that.
Yes, I got in too deep at that point, but I thought when you were asking the question initially, I thought you meant from the start to finish of the whole process. But when you're asking individually why I didn't just stop and do what I needed to do at any given point. And honestly, the more I went in, the more scared I was and the more I'd messed up.
But you
But-
didn't appreciate the fact that you were just getting in deeper. You were making it worse with not, calling a
No,
halt to it all.
no, I did, but just the
But
more,
it didn't inform your decision making.
well, there's also some things like from my past and some therapy. That's one thing that I'm really working on now.
That's great.
And I have been working on is, like I said earlier, like I've always been good at making decisions, but I haven't been in this situation like that.
Okay.
And I had to find out, why was that my response? Why did I deal with it that way?
Okay.
And I found there's just like, I have a fight or flight, had a fight or flight from things that have happened in my past or what have you. And just being embarrassed, like made me, and it doesn't make sense. I understand now it doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense to me now. I just know that would never happen again because now I know, like, no matter how much embarrassed I am, no matter how scared I am, there's a right way and there's a wrong way of doing things. And at the time,
I'm glad you have that insight. And I appreciate, the work that you're doing on yourself. I encourage you to continue it. You've only been off supervision 3 years for this, and you want to get back into the field where you would have similar responsibilities. And I am not there yet. So I will not be voting to grant you a pardon today, but I'm going to move to my colleagues. Ms. Berry, where are you?
You know, I honestly do believe Ms. Flockhart that she was afraid and she really did make a number of poor decisions. I appreciate that she is working on herself and she's trying to gain a better understanding of, why she behaves in this way. And to me, that does show some degree of growth. Being able to identify the source, I think, is key. While we may not understand it, I really do hope that she continues gaining that better understanding so that she never does this to another child. And I hear her saying, I'm sure this was traumatic for her. And thank God the child was probably clueless about what was going on. This was all so crazy. And I honestly think that whether or not we grant a pardon here today, I don't think that she will be able to really, not anytime soon, go about her life without having to mention that this occurred or transpired. Or so I honestly, I know she's still in school, she's still trying to work on herself and stuff. So I would support her pardon, as much as it pains me as a mom. I think that this was a lesson well learned. So,
and I guess part of what I struggle with is she wasn't 22 or 23. She was 38.
38, I know.
And
but trauma's trauma, and it shows itself up it manifests itself in many different ways. That doesn't justify a thing, by the way. But I do understand.
So in the matter of Tasha Flockhart, there's a motion to grant a full and absolute pardon. Mr. Pohl?
Aye.
Ms. Berry?
Aye.
My vote is nay. So the pardon is granted by majority.
thank you.
Tell me that this pardon board is not dangerous. I mean, tell me that this is not insane. This is madness to me. At the time, a 38-year-old woman who has one job to take a special needs child to school, and then she doesn't. Then she takes her home, and then she fabricates a lie, and she denies every instant of it. The police have to investigate her. Frankly, I think she is lucky she didn't get kidnapping felony charges. Through the process, her defense argued with the judge and said, "Hey, this is take it easy on her." And the judge said, "No, we need to protect future children. This needs to be on a record." We'll go through the facts of the case. And you actually have member Barry saying, "Well, it's yeah, a trauma and manifests itself in strange ways as a defense." And it's like, who cares? Even you want to buy the story that she everyone has trauma and she retracted back into that trauma, and it's like, who cares? That's not relevant here. Do you want to understand why someone would do that? Great, study it all you want. Come up with your philosophies and your theories and write a book about it. This, though, is about protecting future children. A mother, a father has not only the right, but the responsibility, the need to know that if they are signing up their child with a therapist, that this has happened. You cannot expunge this from someone's record. As a father of 3 with small children who I take to therapists after school, if I found out that one of those therapists had this history, I would not take my child to that therapist. My child is not your experiment. She is working again in this field. It says it on her profile for what she does for work. There's not a lot of articles online about her. I'll read one, but it would take just probably not a lot of money, probably a few $100s with one of those services to take what's on the front page and put it on page 10 where it disappears. Really wouldn't take much work at all because there's not a lot of news on this. But this felt to me like one of those stories where it was just one moment away from the child disappearing forever, because that's how these stories begin. And I didn't see any honesty. I took the child home. And by the way, I'm not going to falter for not saying the child's name. That's a legal thing. They can't say the name. I took the child home to study. But I was feeding the child all day. And that's too, you can't have it both ways. First of all, no one takes a 4-year-old child home when you need to study. That's like that's no. You ever have a 4-year-old child around, a 4-year-old child with special needs? Good luck trying to get some studying in. It's not that I don't believe her story. I believe that she probably does have a lot of issues, and she had, but I don't believe she really worked it out. I felt that she was still dodging even here in the pardon hearing. At 38 years old, this is something maybe like a 17-year-old would do, a 16-year-old would do, where it's like, oh, I'm in the pants. I can't change her. I'm going to get in trouble. I'll just take her home and then lie. That person, see, again, it's not about why she did it. That's not our business. It's not about if she's worked on herself and has done insight and therapy. That's not our business. One job. She came in here. She didn't say, I want to pardon so I could you know, improve my working possibilities as a programmer, which I started to do. No, she came here and said, I want to work with children again. No, you can't. You lost that opportunity. We can't take a chance on you. There's something unbelievably wrong with you. We just have to say no. Even if I want, it's our job to say no. Why does she come before every parent she might work with and their child? If I was a dog walker and I took an owner's dog and then disappeared for a day and lied about where I took the dog, I could imagine that there would be a pardon boards that would not give that person their dog walking license back. This isn't so hard to wrap one's mind around. This is pretty simple stuff. And this is why we cover it, because you got to call out insanity when you see it. This is insane. Again, this is not about understanding. This is not about forgiveness. This is about protecting potential future victims. And where there's smoke, there's fire, there's red signals. This person really should be working with children? This was written in 2018 when a judge said, when she was fighting for some programs, and they said no. So let's just go through it really quick. A speech therapist accused of bringing a Stanford child to her home instead of taking the little girl to preschool without telling the children's parents was denied participation in a diversionary program for the first-time offenders that could have wiped the woman's criminal charges away. Right. So the pardon board is overturning the judge's wisdom here, and this is recent. This is like 30 years ago. She just finished her probationary period. Stanford judge Richard Comfort said he would not allow Tasha, 37, in Nebraska to participate in an accelerated rehabilitation program, and she remains charged of unlawful restraint, interference with police, and false statement. Unfortunately, we live in a world where I see more and more children who are mistreated, Comfort said. Flockhart and her attorney, Tigerson, during a hearing in Stanford courthouse Thursday morning. It's a matter if serious the application is denied. Youth Bureau Sergeant Joseph Kennedy said the case on May 1st, when Flockhart was being paid to bring a 4-year-old girl with special needs to her preschool and assisted her during the day. After bringing the child to school that morning, Flockhart began sending texts to the girl's mother telling her how the little girl was doing at school, but in reality, Flockhart had taken the child to her own Hope Street apartment for studying for an upcoming exam to complete her UConn master's degree program. By coincidence, a nanny working for the family showed up at the girl's school a little after 1 p.m. to pick her up for a dental appointment. The family was advised that the child never came to school, Kennedy said, and all those text messages about what the child had done in school and how the child had interacted with the teacher had given and she even made, like, think about this, to even make these things up, there's so much more twisted and messed upness, red flags, sirens. She's texting mom, making things up. She said that that her child gave a flower to the teacher. Kennedy said that the police department objected to Flockhart getting a program because she misled police where the child was and would not tell them what happened. The child was not harmed during the incident. Assistant State's Attorney Daniel Cummings also argued against following Flockhart into the program, talking about the girl's mother, who became upset after finding out her child was missing. She literally became so ill she could not see. My Mandoo would have gotten so ill, this would have made her not see as well. And it made any, like, you can't even begin. And the trust that you lose, and could they ever have anyone even take their child to school again? Thigerson said Flockhart compounded her bad decision to take the child home by not be forthcoming. Flockhart, a native of the Midwest, has moved to Nebraska, where she now works as a meat processor and is not working with children any longer. He said news articles written about Flockhart spread the allegations against her around the internet for the foreseeable future. They say this like as if there are internet articles everywhere, news flash, blah, 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 blah. There's nothing, by the way. Like there's 3 articles. This is it. This is the most substantive article that I found. So like this is the defense, like saying, and that's it. They just expunged her record so she could work with children. That's madness to me. I think it's madness to probably the majority of people watching this. And again, it goes. I think it just goes without saying that this is the absolute one of the most insane pardons that we have seen. Because you do not have a right to strip parents of their right to know. And you can't rely on just a news article. That stuff can disappear. It wouldn't be hard. And with that, I'll let you go.
They were trying to say that I was working on, because I was in grad school.
What did you do with the kid all day? That's it.
I worked on feeding. That's the honest to God truth. I worked on feeding. I should just
Right.
call the mom
The
and told her
question
that
was, why did you do it? Because the mom called you and you lied to the mother about the
Mhm.
child giving the teacher a flower.
Mhm.
You called the school and told them that the child was sick and pretended that the mom was right there when you were making the call.
Because I was
You lied to
scared.
the police about taking the car to the car wash. The school, this is a 14-page arrest warrant on this case. And the school has a U-shaped drop-off. And your car was never seen in the drop-off that morning.